Hi, Raleigh, Raylan, Rhett, and Frankie. Mamaw's going to read you all a story since I can't see you right now. The Pig in a Wig, written by Alan MacDonald, illustrated by Paul Hess. The Pig in a Wig. Once there were some farm animals who lived on a farm in a humble, tumble-down barn. One of them was a pig called Peccatis. Peccatis was a polite, kind-hearted pig, but she was rather proud of her looks, and she spent hours admiring her reflection in the duck pond. She believed herself to be the prettiest, pinkest, most perfect pig in all the world. One morning, some lambs passed the farmyard gate on their way to the fields. Peccatis was gazing at herself in the duck pond as usual. The lambs were very pleased with their new woolly coats and hadn't yet learned any manners. They stopped to stare at her. "Ugly old pig! You're pink and fat and you're bald, too!" they bleated. The lamb skipped off giggling, leaving Peccatis to gaze at her reflection again. Instead of the prettiest, pinkest, most perfect pig, she now saw an awfully ugly bald pig. A tear trickled down her snout and plopped into the duck pond. Why had she been born bald? She wondered. There must have been some mistake. She dried her eyes and decided to ask some of her barnyard friends. She found the old horse munching hay in the barn. "Excuse me," said Peccatis most politely, "but could you tell me why I'm bald?" "Bald? Oh, yes," the old horse said, clearing his throat. "The reason you're bald is that you have no mane," he replied. "And please," asked Peccatis, "is that what makes me so awfully ugly?" "Why, of course," nickered the horse. "There is no finer thing in all the world than a glossy and galloping mane." "I see," said Peccatis. "Thank you." Peccatis trotted into the barnyard, where she spotted the marmalade cat curled up in a sunny spot. "Excuse me," said Peccatis most politely, "but do you know why I am bald?" The marmalade cat opened one eye and looked at Peccatis. "The reason you're bald is that you're wearing no fur," she replied. Peccatis nodded sadly. "And is that what makes me so awfully ugly?" "Of course," purred the cat. "There's no finer thing in all the world than a lickable-tickable fur." "I see," said Peccatis. "Thank you." For the rest of that day, Peccatis hid herself from the other animals. It was after dark when she returned to the humble, tumble-down barn. Only the moon was out. "Oh, luminous moon," sighed Peccatis. "Why was I born so bald and awfully ugly?" To her great surprise, a voice replied, "The reason you're bald is that you have no fabulous feathers to flaunt." Peccatis looked up. It wasn't the moon talking after all. It was a singing cock on the roof. "Can you help me?" asked Peccatis most politely. "I've asked everyone why I'm bald and awfully ugly, and they say it's because I haven't got a glossy and galloping mane or lickable-tickable fur, not to mention fabulous feathers to flaunt. But I don't see what I can do about it." The cock strutted back and forth on the crest of the roof. "It would indeed be a strange and wonderful sight if a pig could grow feathers," the cock crowed. Suddenly, Peccatis got an idea. Without thanking the singing cock or bidding it good night, she trotted into the barn. All that night, while the other animals slept, strange rustling and scuffling sounds came from Peccatis' corner. When the first sunlight crept into the barn, the cocks crowed and the animals stretched and yawned and shuffled into the yard. Everyone stared at Peccatis. Overnight she had grown hair, golden locks of hair as curly as a pig's tail. Peccatis tossed her head proudly and paraded in front of them. Just then, the young lambs passed by the gate, following their mothers up the field. "Look at the pig!" they shouted. "What's she got on her head?" "The pig is wearing a wig!" they cried. They all crowded around the gate, bleating and giggling at poor Peccatis. "The pig's in a wig! The pig's in a wig!" they chorused. Peccatis' pink face turned red. She spun around and fled up the hill. She didn't stop running until she reached the big farmhouse at the top. There she crept into the shadow of the wall and wept. Tears ran down her plump cheeks, and the straw wig laid crooked and crumpled on her head. "Wah, wah," a voice wailed nearby. Peccatis sniffled and listened. It was coming from the farmhouse. "Hush, hush, my darling, don't cry, my precious," another voice sang. Standing on her hind legs, Peccatis could see into the window. The farmer's wife sat on the floor washing something in a tub. In the tub of water lay a baby human. Its eyes were screwed up tight, and its two tiny hands waved in the air. It was as pink as Peccatis. But what surprised her most was this: the baby was completely bald. It was a pink, plump, and perfectly hairless human. The farmer's wife tickled the baby round the tummy. "You're beautiful, my precious angel," she cooed. The baby began to gurgle and giggle. Peccatis pressed her face against the window, smiling back. At that moment, the farmer's wife looked up and saw the bedraggled, bewiggled face at her window. "Help!" she screamed. "A horrible, hairy monster!" Peccatis fell over backwards with fright. The crooked and crumpled wig fell off. She left it behind in the mud and galloped through the gate and back down the hill. That night, Peccatis told her story to the other animals in the humble tumble-down barn. "And so," she concluded, "if you are hairy, humble humans think you are a horrible monster. But if you are bald," and here she blushed modestly, "they call you an angel. And they say you are beautiful," she added, holding up her head a little higher. Peccatis has never worn a wig since that day, and she doesn't believe that the finest thing in all the world is a glossy and galloping mane, or lickable, tickable fur, or fabulous feathers to flaunt. She thinks that pigs are born just perfect. The end. Love you guys. Talk to you later.